Good day, everyone. My name is Andrey Kirillovich, and I'm the Director of Integration Projects in the Russian Satellite Communications Company, or shortly RSCC, one of the oldest and most successful satellite operators in the industry. Today, we start a series of online interviews with the leading experts in the satcom industry on actual topics from the agenda of satellite global and regional markets. So we have called it a Voice of Satellite Industry. These video interview series are brought to you by RSCC in close cooperation with the Operations Committee of Intersputnik, an international satellite communications organization. It unites 26 member countries where RSCC is one of the signatories. Intersputnik Operations Committee has also initiated a series of webinars, and the first one has been made recently on connectivity in Africa. It gathered satellite operators working in this region for panel discussion. And now we would like to continue our interactive discussion about Africa. And today we have a very interesting guest here with me, an interesting guest and respected industry professional, Mr. Mohamed Jama. Good afternoon, Mr. Jama.
Good afternoon, Andrey.
Let me make a short introduction of our today's guest, Mr. Jama. So Mr. Jama is the founder and CEO of Dalkom Somalia, a service provider in the country of Somalia, which provides next generation solutions and broadband connectivity, cloud computing, managed satellite and internet services to business, wholesale and consumer segments. The company operates since 2003. So besides that, Mr. Jama is also the current chair of the board in West Indian Ocean Cable Company, a wholesale provider of fiber connectivity in Africa, operating Pan-African and high-speed IP network. Mr. Jama has over 25 years of experience working in the African telecommunication sector, primarily in wholesale services, including Telecom Somalia. He is passionate about technology and has founded several other companies, including Frontier Optical Networks, which was the first open access broadband infrastructure operator in Kenya. He is a founder member of WIOCC and the Eastern Africa Submarine Cable System Consortium, and a member of International Submarine Cable Protection Committee and the Somali Telecommunication Association. So as you see, we have a very experienced and respected telecom professional here with me today. So Mr. Jama, my first question will be as follows. Despite the years of telecom infrastructure development, Africa remains the most unconnected continent on the world, in the world, with internet penetration below 30%. So why this happened? And what shall be done in order to increase the digital inclusion and connectivity of African people? So Mr. Jama, you've been developing Africa's telecom local and international infrastructure for nearly 2 decades at Dalkom Somalia and WIOCC, both with terrestrial and satellite technologies. So it would be very interesting to see your view on this.
Thank you very much, Andrey, for this brief, good introduction. And if I straight go to the question, yes, I've been involved in all these activities, and we know that why I was doing all that activity was the same problem that you raised, because Africa was not really developing the basics that is required for digital economy. So the question is, there is no shortcut for Africa when it comes to the digital inclusion and connectivity. The fundamental element is the broadband infrastructure. Africa, if they don't overcome the issue of connectivity, be it submarine or satellite or terrestrial connectivity, or even a metro connectivity, then Africa cannot harvest the socio-economic opportunities available in the digital economy. So the basic element is having a broadband infrastructure in the continent. Africa, for the last 10 years, has been embarking on various connectivity at the regional blocks or at continental level, or even at national level. More submarines have been deployed, more national and regional backbones have also been rolled out, and more last-mile connectivity has been undertaken by nearly every African country. For instance, the last 10 years, 10 years ago, there was the sea coast of East Africa was completely empty. But today, we have more than 10 cables. And that alone shows you how much Africa is trying to push the agenda of digital inclusivity and also trying to develop the digital economy in the continent. Thousands of kilometers of now terrestrial backbones, metro networks, it is already undertaken by the national level or regional level. And then again, Africa is right now pushing for the investment that is required now to get a full, reliable connectivity in the continent. So I see opportunities are building up, and more initiatives is going on right now. And within a short period, like let's say maybe the coming 5-6 years, Africa will overcome quite a number of digital gap that is actually hampering the development of the continent. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jama. And now we move on to the second question. So since we're speaking in the framework of satcom industry, I would like to take a deeper dive into satellite and space borders. Africa's space agenda development. As we know, many countries are establishing space agencies and pay more attention to space activities inside the continent. So some countries have already launched communication satellites like Nigeria. Some are planning like Angola. Others are still thinking like DRC, Ethiopia, South Africa, and some others. So could you please give your view on this? Maybe it's worth a joint approach, like in the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Zone, the model which RSCC was trying to implement in the past, where each country made a contribution to joint satellite.
I think, first of all, we have to understand the basics, and which is satellite is like the fiber is also another critical element for connectivity development in Africa. And because Africa is vast and large continent, which means that every fiber cannot be commercially viable everywhere in the continent. So you need a hybrid solution. And the hybrid solution is that both satellite and fiber have to coexist and co-work together within the continent. And that is the only way you can bring in Africa sustainable and reliable connectivity. Also, in the satellite is doing some additional important services that the fiber cannot do. Satellite is very important for spatial and monitoring services, which the fiber cannot do. Therefore, Africa has to come up with an aggressive investment plan for space communications. If Africa is thinking about proper development. The approach taken by different initiatives, I see the RSCOM approach, which is actually the Pan-African Union approach, has some limitations. And I think the concern is all the initiatives that has been taken, most of them were lacking the private sector involvement. And the national government or the regional initiatives did not come up with the best way of commercializing that initiative in the region. So most of them, they have been lacking the private sector involvement. And I believe until the private sector comes on board, Africa may not realize a sustainable commercial space agenda for the continent. This is very important remark is that I want to make it clear, because the government they can do individual initiatives, they can do national initiatives or sub-regional initiatives, but it has to be converted into a commercial agenda. And I think that is what we did in the submarine cable. When we were developing the submarine cable, today, most of the submarine cables in Africa is driven by a private sector initiatives. So the telco sectors and venture capitalists are coming together and jointly investing in Africa for the submarine cable development. Why don't we do it with a satellite? Why don't we do it with a space agenda plans? And I think that is the only time that Africa can realize a proper satellite connectivity or a proper space agenda, and until they bring all the stakeholders. I think, and the proper investment plan, this problem will be still going to stay in the African connectivity. And I have not seen at the moment quite a number of initiatives. Yes, the national initiatives are going on, but I think all of them, the private sector involvement, it is not being considered.
Okay, thank you. It was a really good point. Yes, I also agree that the partnership between business and governments is also the way out and actually the best solution. And the last question is specifically on Intersputnik. As an international satellite communications organization with 26 states as members and appointed signatories. So what do you think Intersputnik organization, uniting various countries and telecom operators from around the world, can do in order to promote satellite connectivity in Africa? As many members have got satellite and teleports resources, as well as other satcom networks related expertise in development of satcom and broadcasting networks all over the world, including Africa.
Maybe I divide that question into two segments. One is the role of Intersputnik as an institution and organization. And the second one is the role of the members. Intersputnik has a very important role in the continent of Africa. And they can actually position themselves as a trusted technology partner in Africa, because Africa is looking for a strategic, trusted technology partner, which I believe Intersputnik organization, as an organization of all qualities, capacities required for that strategic partnership. Therefore, I believe Intersputnik can position itself as a strategic partner of a space agenda development in Africa. It only requires to develop a proper vision and proper strategy for realization of Africa agenda. And I think Africa is more than willing to collaborate with them. When it comes to the members, I think members have to realize that Africa has a great market. It's the only growing market in the world today. Any other market either has reached a saturation point or there is a minimum space or gap for growth. Margins are very low, and Africa is the only one that is now flourishing and now shifting to a middle class or highly developed market. So I believe the members of Intersputnik can come and utilize and benefit the growth of Africa market by just offering a competitive products and services that Africa can rely on. Once they achieve that goal, I believe they will become a best and strategic service provider for the continent. So the market is open, it's growing, 1.3 billion market size is not very small, vast continent, satellite services are required everywhere, and they have to coexist with the fiber connectivities that we are developing in the continent. The services are more required than any other place because it can reach any point in the continent. So I believe they have a big opportunity that they need to tap and benefit from the infrastructure that they have. I stop there.
Okay, thank you very much for this interesting point. And I think we are done. So thank you very much, Mr. Jama, for joining for our interactive discussion. And so please stay tuned on our remaining list. And so we'll come soon with the new interviews in the series, as we call it, The Voice of Satellite Industry. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.